just getting a head start on deleting you all off Facebook. Good afternoon, family members, teachers, distinguished guests, but most of all, welcome Grads 2012! Today marks the day. We did it. We made it through times of anxiety, excitement, and stress. We shed blood, sweat, and tears, and that only accounts for the times when we had to watch the boys' football team play. Most importantly, however, we made it through these past 4 years together. We've grown from immature children, full of energy, angst, and hormones, to young men and women with responsibilities and futures. Well, maybe not Hamish. The first chapter of our journey began 4 years ago when we walked through the doors of St. Pius for the very first time. It was intimidating. I mean, here we stood in the biggest school we'd ever gone to. Once again, we were the smallest kids there, and we began a journey that would change the rest of our lives. We all went to our first classes and met the new people who would become a significant part in our lives. These were the people we would soon call friends, the people we would hang out with on weekends, go to join clubs together, that too, go to parties with, even jump through their cabinets, or break their new hot tubs, Cal Weatherall. Together with our newfound friends, we began our journey into adulthood. Once we grew into our new home, we slowly learned how to handle high school and everything that came our way. Tests, exams, trying to understand what Mr. Dragon and Miss McDonald were saying, everyday kind of stuff. More importantly, however, we embraced a new covenant, a new sense of unity, of pride and passion. We embraced ourselves as X-Men. We bonded through a sense of togetherness, a passion which stemmed from the innate and communal feeling of everlasting friendship, driven by the spirit of St. Pius X. During our first Terry Fox run, we rallied together, we painted our faces, sported our green and white. When Frank Ryan challenged us to a food drive, well, we drove them to shame. When Bear Hug came, we hugged tighter than wet spandex on a fat kid. And when Spirit Week came, well, we all just wore jeans and a t-shirt every day. But the point is, we did it together. You know, when they asked me to write this speech, it was really hard to sum up the past 4 years into just a few short minutes. I had to think to myself, what truly cements Pius as a great school? You know, when I think of Pius, I think of three things: knowledge, perseverance, and Italians. People were worried I was just going to come up here and make fun of everyone. I know the teachers were terrified I was going to impersonate them. Luckily for Mr. O'Connor, there isn't a table I can put my leg up on. So I had to think, what makes Pius exceptional compared to all other school communities? And it certainly wasn't the smell in the E-building. Here at Pius, we have such a warm and comforting community spirit. We have a welcoming staff, top quality education, and a passion to establish all things in Christ. Even though everyone has their fair share of tumultuous times in high school, it is safe to say that Pius has provided us with a foundation to grow and mature through each chapter of our lives. For many of us, Pius began with some very fond memories, like the semi-formal, the welcome wagon, coffee house, the victory ball. I've had some very memorable moments here at Pius. The grade 10 play, The Musical Comedy Murders of 1940, when I had the great pleasure to work alongside the talents of Shauna McGinn, Ben LaPierre, Leslie Let's Pillage This Village Crow, and Lauren Cardarelli. But with all these wonderful times came tales of hardship. I remember the first time we had exams and the terrified look upon everybody's face. Or even worse, the math EQAO. And some of you are looking at me like that wasn't very hard. But if you had Mr. Robertson, you know what I'm talking about. But we got through grade 9, a little more knowledgeable, a little taller, and we prepared ourselves for the upcoming year. You know, it's so strange looking at how much everyone's changed over the years. Back in grade 9, everyone was so different. I mean, do you remember when Nikki Nowak used to carry around a suitcase of lip balms and perfumes that poisoned everyone's airway? But anything to impress Devin Russo, I guess. Mr. Dragon used to make Cow Power read every single day. I remember when Jose Pozo wasn't 4 years older than everyone else, and I do remember a time when Jake Pennock and Maria Martin weren't dating. Over the years, we've seen so many people come and go. Mr. Kennedy, Miss Lenny, Mr. Cooper, the other half of Marvin. We started out with people like Juan and Ruben and later replaced them with Josh Brady. In grade 10, we lost half of our rejects, I mean friends. Insane effects. Throughout the years, we've seen the great uprise of such characters like Cute Al, Alex Kazmarek. God, he is so cute, you just want to pinch him. Of course, Joey the Golden Gold Nahas. And how could we forget? Where is she? Nora, where are you? Yes, Nora! Well, along with these characters came the staff. I remember walking into Pius for the first time and seeing the new teachers. I remember seeing Mr. Warren and thinking, oh, he's so muscular. I remember staring up at Mr. Perry and wondering, what do your parents feed you? And it seems like just yesterday I was sitting in Mr. Boucher's civics class as he ranted about the intricacies of politics, and monarchs, and democracies. And I remember thinking to myself, how do I have more hair on my face than him? Joking aside, I'd like to give a special thanks to some of the teachers who have made a tremendous impact on my high school career. I'd like to thank Mr. Dragon. It was a great honor to have you for physics, sir, teaching me all the spooky things about science. Thanks to Mrs. Hensper for being a real great math teacher and showing me how to use the cricket. To Mrs. Cheshire, I'm pretty sure I know more about your husband than sociology. But I did learn one thing in your class. One thing that you repeated over and over and over and over again until I had no choice but to accept it as truth. You're pregnant. To Mr. Sloan, thank you for teaching me all about history. English class was great. Not really sure what happened in Hamlet, but I do know that Kenneth Branagh does a real good job. Thanks to Mrs. Richardson, simply for being hilarious. Special thanks to Miss McDonald, who taught me that no matter how hard I try, I'm still not going to be as good as most people. I'll tell you a little story. I wrote an application for a scholarship earlier in the year, and I got Miss McDonald to write me a reference letter. And I went to go get it from her, and she's like, oh, Cameron, did you look at past winners of this scholarship? And I said, no, miss, I hadn't. And she named some kid. She's like, oh, yes, Alex so-and-so won it last year. And I was like, oh, that's great. And she stared at me with that twinkle in her eye that she gets when she's about to destroy your soul. And she had that little grin, and she said, yeah, he had 99% average, so you could try. A huge thanks to Miss Bastianelli. She does a great deal for the school, and Pius is very lucky to have her. Most importantly, however, the staff here at Pius have a noticeably cheerful and harmonious bond, and I believe this is because of the stellar leadership of our fabulous principal, Miss Jennifer Oak. You will be dearly missed from the Pius family, Miss Oak. Good luck at Holy Trinity. They're very lucky to have you. And for all those teachers I didn't mention, you're wonderful, but maybe you should have given me a higher mark and you'd be... I was also going to thank Erica Lou for all the great things she's done this year, but I figure since she did that herself 15 times in the yearbook, it would just seem staged. Looking back on the past 4 years here at Pius, I can honestly say that I will miss it dearly. Many of you in this room I've had the pleasure of getting to know, and I am very grateful to have done so. From my encounters with you, one thing is for certain, you are all amazing people. From this day forward, we all enter the world of adulthood, adopting new values, responsibility, and bankruptcy from student debt. The unwritten paths ahead of us will shine brightly as long as we retain the sense of work ethic, pride, and initiative that we learned here at Pius. To all of you, you are truly kind and respectable individuals. You made each day a pleasure to come to school. Some provided humor, amusement, drama, test answers. But most of all, we've given each other a place to call home for the past 4 years, so thank you. There is a vast amount of potential within all of you here. Some of you will go on from today and go straight to work. Others will go to college, where you'll become the next business owners and trade technicians. Some will go to universities like Ottawa U, Queen's, and McGill, where Amanda Perosa will still be better than all of you. And then some of you will go to Carleton, realize you made a big mistake, do a victory lap, and try again for Ottawa U. In retrospect, we've spent the past 4 years here at Pius, and there's so many things we've accomplished and done, yet there are still so many things we've still haven't learned. For instance, we'll never know how to calculate wind resistance on a physics question. We'll never know exactly what kind of chicken they put in those wraps in the calf. We'll never know what countries the science teachers come from or who taught Miss McDonald how to count. We'll never know what the true color of Victoria Bassey's skin is. And we'll never understand a word that Louise is saying. We'll never know what the janitors do in that little room in the basement C building. And certainly we'll never know the point to any of Mr. Sloan's lectures. But one thing we will know is that our stay here at Pius has changed us into the exemplary students and the role models of today and the leaders of tomorrow. You know, it's a very surreal feeling standing up here looking upon all of your faces and wondering if I'll ever see these friends again. This is what makes graduating bittersweet. I mean, we finally get to live the Jake Pennock life and get up whenever we want. But in our joy, we have the sad departure from each other. So in saying goodbye to Pius, I'd also like to say goodbye to those who made Pius amazing. To your future graduates, I wish you all the best of luck. Victoria and Angela, I look forward to your Jersey Shore spin-off show. Amanda, the world awaits the day you cure cancer or send chimps to Mars. Mark Calantes, we all can't wait to vote for you on So You Think You Can Dance. And Tyler Cudahy, when you become the president of Apple, just remember I mentioned you in this speech. I hope you all go out into the world adopting a sense of respect for your community, for others, for Christ and self, becoming the best people that you can possibly be. Capture your dreams and never doubt yourself, and never let anybody else get in your way. Our story here at Pius began when we walked through the doors, and today we stand with readiness to pass through them one last time, starting a new chapter. Today we walk away from Pius as graduates, accomplished students, young men and women venturing out into the world for the first time without the protective hardcover of the institution which brought us all together. And while the subsequent pages of the last 4 years in the novel that is your life have skimmed by, I hope one day you flip back a few pages and relive the memories you made here at Pius. And I hope that reminiscing captures you and consumes you and leaves your list of priorities and other big adult words in check as you flip to a new chapter, always keeping in mind the friends, the journeys, and the aspirations you once had as a young adult. Though the cast of characters may change and the plot lines will lead in different directions, you will always have a permanent spot here in the pages of Pius history. We were the children of comedy, brains, brawn, a collection of characters unlike any before us, and I will miss each and every one of you dearly. You've become like annoying brothers and sisters. I hate you, but I love you all at the same time. And yes, it is corny to say, but I hope that no matter where life takes you, you try to keep in touch. And though I never wore the jerseys or went to any of the games, I know that when people ask where I came from, I will say with pride that I was an X-Men. Thank you.